to talk about the design process for building our bridge and how we translated that into instructions and the troubles that we had along the way. So we wanted to take advantage of repeating parts for our bridge so that whoever builds our bridge only has to worry about like building one part like a bunch of times and then piecing them together. We thought it'd be easy to do it like that, so it's kind of like assembling Legos. So yeah, once we found our part that was pretty strong, we call these X-frames. To make the side supports, we just connect 5 of these X-frames together. And the instructions for how to make an X-frame itself and how to make these side supports were really explicit. We wanted to make sure that whoever was building our bridge knew how to build the X-frames as best as they side supports with these repeating parts. So after a little bit of troubleshooting, we found that a really strong structure to connect these two together is to have them interweave like this, where we have this side slanting up to meet the other end, and then have another point, it's kind of hard, to go this way. So they kind of make like a small intersection when you look at it from the front view. So yeah, that was a really strong structure, especially after it's taped. But it was really hard to communicate that into the instruction.
After having a usability testing day, we were able to debrief as a group and understand where our instructions were going wrong. One of the first important things is creating these repeated shapes, as Mark talked about earlier. In our instructions, we did not explicitly explain that this needs to be a right angle, and this led to error when another group was trying to build our bridge. One of the reasons is when we worked on interweaving this, since the angle was off, our instructions didn't really help explain how this process was to go, how the group was supposed to go about doing this process. Another important thing is we tried to convey interweaving these patterns or X-frames together in words, and as someone who was not there during the design process, this can be very confusing. And so as we debriefed as a group, we understood that this is something that we should maybe look into having more diagrams to explain the process.
So yeah, after that troubleshooting day, we sought some help from the professors, asked them how we could be more explicit about the placement and also the angle that we put these X-frames that are supposed to be in between these two side supports. They suggested that we use more diagrams and that we were also more explicit with our words, saying where these are supposed to be located, whether they're near or closer to you, whether they're more in the middle, or whether they're farther away from you. Also, once we took in that feedback, we made some edits to our instructions, and I had my roommate go over the instructions himself just to see if there were any improvements in the clarity of our instructions. After we got some positive feedback from him, we were comfortable that our instructions was at least serviceable for a 14-year-old.
So after taking feedback from the professors and the students in the usability testing group, we identified 2 key pain points that we wanted to really address in our instruction manual. The first being how to create like the repeatable X-frame. We started off by first showing them they needed to make an X, which was easy because it was perpendicularly placed. Then we went on to making that X and then angling it to make a cross and sticking 2 pieces of wood to make the X-frame. Moving on, we wanted to address how the X-frame would be placed in the side supports. So we had photos showing different angles, the side view, the front view, and we also showed what would be an ideal way to tape the X-frame onto the side support. We had arrows showing how the X-frame would fit into the side supports. And we did the same thing over here where you have the X-frame fitting in between 2 side supports. So here's the front view, the top view, and a finished photo of how the X-frame fits within the 2 supports. And then lastly, one of the biggest problems that we had in a previous instruction set was students we relied on the assumption that students would understand how to place subsequent X-frames into the side supports, but which didn't yield a good result in our usability testing group. So we went on and differentiated between the X-frames by having these green arrows showing you the next X-frame that had to be placed within the side supports. So here's like a top view, an angled view, a front view, and ways to tape the X-frame. And we did that for subsequent X's that had to be placed within the side supports. So here's the third piece that goes in, and also photos showing you how to tape the X-frame. And here's for the fourth piece which goes in, and again you have the green arrows showing you the last X frame that gets fit in, and then you have these white arrows showing you the past X's. And we wanted to eliminate any guesswork out of the instruction manual. And finally we went on to just tell you how to make the top base itself. Mark.
Thanks for watching, and most of all, thanks for helping us with the design process and the usability testing of this bridge.